Jack. She believed she was being clever and elusive, but little did she realize that I was already well informed about everything. A colleague of hers, deeply repulsed by the whole situation, had confided in me, spilling every detail. I meticulously crafted my plans, preparing myself both mentally and emotionally for what was to come. The stage was set, and tonight was the night, the culmination of everything we had discussed. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. "Are you sure about tonight?" Mary Kayla asked, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Yes, tonight is the night. I'll wait until after dinner to hand him a beer, and then I'll fill you in on everything that happens," I assured her, trying to sound confident. "Just remember to stay resolute. He won't take this well, but you must hold your ground. I'll remember our plan. This is non-negotiable. It's happening whether he likes it or not. If he truly cares about me, he'll understand that this is what I need for my happiness." Exactly. Brace yourself for his initial outburst. He'll probably yell and resist, but in time, he'll have to come to terms with the new reality. You need to remain calm and unwavering. Allow him to have his outburst, but stand firm. Eventually, he will accept that you are in control. Right. To him, this might seem like a temporary arrangement. Once he gets used to it, he'll likely find a way to enjoy it. And then, it will just become a part of his routine. Are you certain about all of this? Jack can be incredibly stubborn. Kayla, trust me. Jack loves you deeply. He will be angry at first, but once he calms down, he will realize just how much he loves you. He'll be willing to do whatever it takes to make you happy, even if it means accepting this. Okay, I trust your judgment. Believe me, it took me 2 failed marriages to refine this approach, but I perfected it by the time I reached my 3rd marriage. You've seen my current husband. He's entirely under my control now. He even stands by the bed when I'm with someone else and helps clean up afterward. Within a month, another Jack will be molded to fit the same mold. Rest assured, your marriage to Jack will be secure, and you'll also experience the pleasure of several other men. After a long day, I returned home, eager to prepare Jack's favorite meal. When he walked through the door, he greeted me with his usual affectionate words, "I love you," and a gentle kiss on my cheek. Despite his comforting gesture, a knot of anxiety twisted in my stomach. Tonight was not just another evening, it was a pivotal moment that would usher in a profound shift in our marriage. The enormity of what I was about to undertake weighed heavily on me, but I firmly believed it was a necessary step. Mary had been a steady source of guidance with her insights into feminine marriage dynamics. Her own experience with this approach had been transformative, leading to a deep and fulfilling connection with her husband. Witnessing their happiness convinced me that this method could also enrich my marriage with Jack. The dinner itself was warm and intimate. We chatted about the little details of our day and caught up on current events. The atmosphere was relaxed, a comforting prelude to the more serious discussion that would follow. After our meal, I encouraged Jack to unwind with a beer while I took care of the kitchen. He was eager to assist, but I reassured him that it was a small task and I had it under control. With the leftovers put away and the dishes loading into the dishwasher, the moment had arrived. I poured myself a glass of wine to steady my nerves and mentally steeled myself for what was to come. As I moved into the living room, I took a deep breath and began, "Jack, we need to have an important conversation." He looked at me with a hint of curiosity. "Sure, honey, what's on your mind?" "Jack, I know this might be hard for you to hear, but it's something I need to address. Please remember, this is just a temporary phase." He appeared open and attentive. "All right, if it's that important to your happiness, I'm willing to listen and support you. What do you need?" His calm reaction was reassuring. I continued, "We've talked about starting a family, and I'm almost ready for that. However, there are a few steps I need to complete first. It will take a couple of months, at most, before we can begin planning for children." Jack's response was encouraging. "That sounds good, sweetheart. So what are the things you need to take care of before we start this new chapter?" His willingness to understand and support me provided a glimmer of hope. It was clear that while the road ahead might be challenging, Jack's commitment to our relationship was strong, and together we could navigate these changes. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. "Jack, here's what I need to tell you," I began, trying to steady my voice. "I feel the need to explore some new experiences before we fully commit to the next phase of our lives together. This will be a temporary arrangement, and once it's over, I promise I'll return to being the wife and mother you've always dreamed of." Jack listened intently, his demeanor surprisingly calm. "All right, my love, that sounds reasonable for now, but how exactly do you plan to go about this?" To my relief, Jack was taking the news better than I'd feared. I continued, "I plan to see other men for a while. We'll still maintain our intimacy regularly, but I'll also engage in physical relationships with others to help me clear my head and reassess things. Remember, these will be purely physical encounters. My love for you remains unchanged. After this period, I'll come back to you, be your devoted wife again, and then we can start focusing on having the children we've planned." Jack's response was measured, though tinged with disapproval. "Well, Kayla, it seems like you've made up your mind without seeking my permission. I want to make it clear that I'm not in favor of this. If you're looking for my approval, I'm not giving it. However, you're an adult, and I won't try to stop you if you believe this is what you need." His calm acceptance was both surprising and relieving. It seemed that Mary's advice was spot on. Jack might come to terms with this new role I was introducing into our lives. "So, Kayla, how will this work in practice? Are you planning to move out, or do you expect me to? Will you be bringing them here, or will you go to their places or a hotel?" I answered with a reassuring tone, "We'll both continue living here. We're married, and as I said, our intimate life will remain as it is. The other men will be involved in physical encounters only. I may either visit them or invite them here. During those times, you would need to sleep in the spare bedroom. I don't see any need for a hotel since everything can be managed from here." Jack's reaction showed a blend of resignation and acceptance. I felt a cautious optimism that despite the challenges ahead, this new arrangement could ultimately lead us to a deeper understanding and a renewed sense of connection. Again, I want to be clear that I'm not on board with this, and I'm not willing to engage in any physical intimacy during this period. I'm concerned about the risk of STDs, and I need to ensure we're both safe. Once you've finished with this arrangement, we'll have to wait until you're tested and cleared before resuming our intimacy. Enjoy yourself, but don't worry about me." I felt a pang of disappointment at Jack's response. "Well, Jack, it's disheartening to hear this, but I understand your concerns. I love you and cherish our moments together, but if this is what it takes, I'll accept it." That's the spirit, honey. So when do you plan to start these escapades? Mary and I have made plans to hit a club tomorrow night and meet a few guys from work. It's uncertain how the night will unfold, but there's a chance I might bring one of them home, since you're not up for intimacy while I'm involved with others. It might be best if you moved into the spare room for the next couple of months. All right, Kayla, don't worry about it. I'll handle the move. I'll have everything sorted out by the time you get home tomorrow night, Jack said, before turning back to his newspaper. I was astonished by Jack's calm and mature reaction. My heart swelled with relief and hope. Despite his reservations and refusal of intimacy, he accepted the situation with an unexpected level of maturity. Mary's advice seemed spot on. In a couple of months, Jack would be fully aligned with the new dynamic I was introducing. I knew this temporary pause in our intimacy was just that, a temporary phase. In a week or two, he would likely be back in my bed, and then I could apply the final touch to ensure he fully embraced his new role. Hi Mary, it's Kayla. Just wanted to give you an update. Hey girl, how did it go last night? You won't believe it, Jack was incredibly mature about everything. I was expecting him to explode, but he stayed calm and accepting throughout. Wow, that's amazing. I told you he'd come around. Do you think you could convince him to watch tonight? I don't think so. I'm not even going to suggest it. He made it clear he won't engage in any intimacy while I'm with someone else. But I'm confident that won't last long. After a week or two of being apart and seeing me with others, he'll be right back. Sounds like it could be a lot of fun. Since he refused to be intimate, I went ahead and had him moved to the spare room. He's packing up his stuff now and promised it will all be sorted before I get home tonight. I love that you changed the name from master bedroom to owner's bedroom. I might have to start doing that too. Definitely. Anyway, I should get ready. I'll meet you at the club. Okay, see you soon. Bye. Later that night, Jack had made significant progress in packing up the bedroom. I was curious about why he needed to box everything instead of just carrying it down the hall, but he explained that packing was more efficient and allowed him to sort through things and discard what wasn't needed. I suppose that made sense, though I was too preoccupied with getting ready to pay much attention. He complimented how alluring I looked in my lingerie, garter belt, and stockings, and mentioned nothing about the red cocktail dress I wore, an outfit I had only donned once before for our 5th anniversary. I felt confident and beautiful in it, despite the occasion. I let Jack know that I was heading out for the night and anticipated returning around 1 a.m. I casually mentioned that he didn't need to wait up for me, as there was a good chance I wouldn't be alone. As I said this, I picked up my clutch, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves as I prepared to step into the night. He reassured me not to worry and added that he would have moved out by the time I got back. With that promise hanging in the air, I couldn't help but envision the future. Perhaps one day I could negotiate with Jack to allow me to tie him down, a form of control in exchange for stepping back from my affairs with other men. Of course, this would only be on my terms, and he didn't need to know my intentions just yet. The thought of using this as leverage for his return was tantalizing. It was a strategy I would need to carefully consider. As the evening wore on, I realized I needed to recover from the emotional whirlwind of the previous night and prepare myself for a demanding day at work tomorrow. I shrugged off my thoughts for the time being, opting to prepare a simple dinner for myself. After enjoying a glass of wine, I felt the tension begin to fade. I finally retreated to bed, allowing the comfort of my surroundings to envelop me as I drifted off to sleep, my mind swirling with possibilities for the future. Throughout the week, Jack remained eerily silent. Each day that passed without communication from him only heightened my sense of control over the situation, allowing me to establish more stringent conditions for his eventual return. As I continued my extracurricular activities, meeting Larry, Josh, and a few other charming men in the pantry, I had a double session with Larry and Josh scheduled for later that afternoon. Despite the thrill of my current escapades, a sense of unease lingered in the back of my mind, fueled by Jack's prolonged absence. On Friday morning, during our coffee break, I chatted casually with Larry, Josh, and Mary near the coffee machine. Our conversation was interrupted when a sharply dressed woman approached us. With a professional air, she asked if we were Kayla Adams, Mary Morgan, Josh Johnson, and Larry Jones. After we confirmed our identities, she handed each of us an envelope and quickly snapped a few photos with a small digital camera. Before we could react, she cheerfully informed us that we had all been served with legal papers and proceeded to head toward our boss's office. I called out to her, seeking clarification, but she replied in a sweet Southern accent that she was simply hired to deliver the documents as a prank and wasn't privy to their contents. Without further ado, she entered our boss's office, bypassing the door without a knock. Less than a minute later, she emerged with a bright smile, wishing us a good day as she left the building. Confusion quickly turned to shock as we opened our envelopes, revealing divorce papers with spousal cheating listed as the grounds. I was immobilized, staring at the papers in disbelief. My colleagues' phones began to ring almost immediately afterward. Josh and Larry's wives, armed with evidence of their infidelities, were already making plans to expel them from their homes. The reality of imminent divorces and personal upheavals began to sink in. The tension in the office escalated when our boss's voice boomed from his office, brimming with frustration. He appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of fury, and demanded that Adams, Morgan, Johnson, and Jones report to his office immediately. A heavy sense of dread settled over me as we trudged past him, heads bowed, and entered his office. The door slammed shut behind us with an ominous finality. Inside, our boss's anger was palpable. He ranted about the situation being far beyond mere inconvenience, his agitation evident as he waved a manila envelope in front of us. His frustration was almost tangible, yet none of us dared to speak. The gravity of the moment was overwhelming, leaving us in a paralyzing silence as we awaited his next move. He proceeded to deliver a shocking announcement, revealing that the company was now embroiled in a lawsuit for breaching the moral standards specified in our employee handbook. With a look of steely determination, he demanded to know if any of us could comprehend the gravity of the legal action facing us. Once again, we stood in stony silence, unable to offer any defense or explanation. Taking charge of the situation, he elaborated on the details of the lawsuit. It centered on accusations against Mrs. Adams, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Johnson for engaging in inappropriate conduct. Furthermore, Mrs. Morgan was implicated in turning the storage room into what was described as a company brothel. He pressed us to deny these allegations and questioned whether any of these activities had occurred during business hours or on company property. Our continued silence only seemed to fuel his frustration. His anger reached a boiling point as he castigated us for our actions, expressing his exasperation over the situation. He pointed out that a court order prohibited him from terminating our employment until the legal proceedings concluded. With a scowl, he instructed us to leave his office so he could figure out the next steps to address this dire situation. Heads bowed, we shuffled out of his office and returned to our respective workspaces. The atmosphere was heavy with anxiety and uncertainty. Despite the turmoil, I was relieved to still have a job, though the challenges ahead were daunting. I decided to carefully review the divorce papers, only to find that they were far more severe than anticipated. The documents included damning evidence, images, videos, audio recordings, and even notarized letters detailing the extent of our alleged misconduct. Not long after, an email from our boss was broadcasted company-wide. The message was stark and alarming. It revealed that management had discovered that employees had consistently engaged in behavior that violated the moral code outlined in the employee handbook, and this misconduct had occurred during work hours and on company premises. Given the severity and potentially widespread nature of the issue, the email announced that drastic measures would be taken to address the problem. The company's commitment to upholding its ethical standards was being tested in a way none of us had anticipated. The situation was escalating quickly. The company had mandated that all employees must review the moral code outlined in the employee handbook due to the uncertainty about who was involved in the scandal. An online course would be set up over the weekend, and every employee was required to complete it by the following Friday. To prevent further misconduct, security measures would be tightened, including spot checks of secluded areas and the installation of permanent security cameras. The storage room, a focal point of the allegations, would be locked, with the key held by the security supervisor. Employees needing access would have to be escorted by security. Additionally, the security supervisor would oversee computer use, ensuring that company assets were not used for personal activities. Prohibited activities included scheduling non-work-related meetings, browsing non-work-related websites, and sending non-work-related text messages on company computers. Social interactions with co-workers were restricted to the break room during designated break times. Security personnel would patrol the building to enforce these rules, and the identities of those responsible for the misconduct would remain undisclosed. Almost immediately, my email was flooded with hate mail from irate co-workers, their frustration palpable. After work, the four of us, Larry, Josh, Mary, and I, gathered at a bar across the street, seeking solace and a chance to discuss our predicament. We huddled at a small table in the corner, feeling the weight of disapproving glances from other patrons during the Friday happy hour. Despite the grim circumstances, there was a small consolation: we still had jobs, at least for the time being. As we commiserated, I brought up the issue of Jack's involvement in the situation. I asked why he might have included such specific terms in the court order. Josh dismissed my initial thoughts, suggesting that Jack wasn't merely trying to cause minimal damage but rather intended to inflict maximum pain. When I sought clarification, Josh explained that the reference to alimony was crucial. Although infidelity was the reason for the divorce, maintaining a stable job and income could be a factor in preventing a judge from awarding alimony. If we were laid off, it might sway a judge to grant financial support due to the circumstances. Josh's advice was to remain employed until the divorce was finalized to avoid complications that could arise from being unemployed. Larry's suggestion about the potential fallout if all four of us were laid off made the gravity of our situation even clearer. He noted that losing our jobs could mean both no alimony and no income. Josh, in response, indicated that he planned to resign on Monday if things reached that point, but Larry pointed out that resigning voluntarily could be perceived negatively in court. It might appear as an attempt to secure support from an ex-spouse, which could affect any potential alimony or financial judgments. The consensus was to hold on to our jobs, save as much money as possible, and avoid any actions that might further complicate our legal and financial situations. Josh voiced concerns about the implications for himself and me, especially since our respective spouses might still receive alimony and child support. He worried about how layoffs could impact these financial responsibilities, noting that alimony and child support are typically based on income at the time of divorce. The prospect of being laid off while facing such obligations seemed bleak. Feeling the weight of these potential consequences, I realized that I needed to focus on my marriage and address the issues with Jack. Although I wanted to support my friends, the prospect of losing my husband made me reconsider my priorities. I resolved to do whatever was necessary to salvage my marriage. I grabbed my cell phone to call Jack, only to find that my calls were blocked. I then borrowed Mary's phone, only to discover that Jack had blocked her number as well. When Larry offered his phone, I hesitated, worried about the implications of calling Jack from a friend's phone. The idea that Jack might have blocked all my contact numbers filled me with a sense of panic. Realizing that reaching him by phone might not be feasible, I decided to seek him out in person. The urgency to confront him face-to-face about our issues and find a resolution outweighed any concerns about societal expectations or potential complications. I needed to address the situation directly to find a way to move forward. Reflecting on the shift in my perspective, I realized how much had changed in such a short time. Just that morning, I had been contemplating making Jack beg and grovel to come home. Now, the situation felt completely reversed, and I found myself uncertain about how to navigate the roles we might play in resolving our issues. I began scrolling through my contacts, hoping to find someone who might know Jack's whereabouts. Unfortunately, none of our mutual friends, at least the ones who were still on speaking terms with me, had any information. The ones who harbored ill feelings towards me were unhelpful and even laughed when I asked if they would pass a message to Jack. After finishing my last call and downing my fourth drink, Josh's suggestion came across as particularly ill-conceived. He proposed that, since our lives were already in disarray, we should all go to my place and spend the night together as a foursome. His rationale was that since we had already been intimate, it made sense to make the most of the situation. To him, it might have seemed like a viable option, but to me, it felt utterly misguided. I was far from in the mood for such an escapade. The idea of inviting everyone over for a late-night orgy seemed like a surefire way to destroy any remaining chance I had with Jack. I needed clarity, not more confusion. What I required was a clear head and a focused plan to find Jack and work on our issues. The last thing I needed was to exacerbate the situation with reckless decisions. As I finished my conversation with Josh, I firmly told him to head to the nearest strip club. His eyes lit up with excitement, and he left with enthusiasm, eager for the distraction. Larry and Mary, sensing the end of the night, decided to head out as well. I gathered my belongings and set off for a small bar across the street, hoping a few drinks might provide some clarity on my next steps. To my surprise, Josh and Larry showed up shortly after, both laden with beer. Larry suggested we try a different bar across town, and together we went, seeking a change of scenery. As we relaxed with our drinks, the conversation turned heated. Larry and Josh debated whether I should be completely honest with Jack about my role in the situation, attempt to smooth things over, or simply give up. Josh argued that since Jack had already taken drastic measures by serving divorce papers, the time had come for me to come clean about my part in the mess. He believed that honesty was the only way forward, no matter how painful it might be. On the other hand, Larry felt that if I were upfront about my feelings and made a genuine effort to reconcile, Jack might reconsider. He thought there was still a chance to mend things if I showed remorse and a willingness to make amends. The discussions with Larry and Josh provided some valuable perspectives, but the final decision was mine to make. The night wore on, and I felt a growing sense of urgency. I needed to confront Jack, sort out the mess we were in, and determine the best path forward for both of us. It was time to face the situation head-on and decide what I truly wanted for our future. Thanks for sticking with us through this intense journey. We've seen the complex dynamics of relationships and personal choices unfold in real time, revealing both the consequences of our actions and the paths to reconciliation. What have you learned from this story? What insights or lessons can you take away and apply to your own life? Share one thing you've learned and how you plan to put it into practice in the comments below. If you found this video engaging and thought-provoking, please leave your comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support helps us bring you even more great stories and insights. Thanks for watching.